Hello, and welcome to the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund's Grant Assistance Training. You are here because your organization responded to the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund's 2020 statewide funding opportunity to address child abuse and neglect in our state. My name is Jada Thomas Smith.
And my name is Kendra Colon. We are the Technical Assistance Coordinators for the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund at the LSU Social Research and Evaluation Center. As their partner, our center provides technical assistance and other evaluation services to the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund, also referred to as LCTF.
Today, we will be providing an overview of the LCTF grants to your organization. The purpose of this training is to help guide you through the process of applying for LCTF dollars. Whether this is your first time submitting a proposal or if you have submitted several times before, knowing the basic requirements will help you as you begin the process of completing your proposal.
So, here is what you can expect today. First, you will hear from both the board chair and executive director of the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund. They are so excited to welcome you. They will provide some important information you need to consider before submitting a grant application. After that, we will review some important program requirements and then spend the rest of our time reviewing the application and going over information needed to submit a timely proposal.
Hi, my name is Francesca Hamilton Acker, and I am the board chair for the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund. Thank you for the work that you do through your programs to help to prevent abuse and neglect of Louisiana's children. The mission of the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund is to prevent child abuse and neglect among Louisiana's children and families through building strong cross-sector partnerships and through increased child safety and public awareness. The purpose of the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund is to support community-based efforts to develop, operate, expand, enhance, and coordinate initiatives, programs, and activities to prevent child abuse and neglect. It's to support the coordination of resources and activities to better strengthen and support families to reduce the likelihood of child abuse and neglect, and also to foster understanding, appreciation, and knowledge of diverse populations in order to effectively prevent child abuse and neglect.
Greetings to all of our community partners. I am Katina M. Simeon, the Executive Director of the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund. The needs of families are as unique as the challenges they face. Each day, the safety and well-being of some of Louisiana's children are threatened by child abuse and neglect. Intervening effectively in the lives of these children and their families is not the sole responsibility of any single agency or professional group, but rather it is a shared community concern. The Louisiana Children's Trust Fund is proud to be a part of this shared community of leaders throughout the state who have made it their mission to work towards the eradication of abuse and neglect and to further collaborate and activate stakeholders statewide for this effort. As a result, we are pleased to offer this grant to those agencies who are working so hard to protect Louisiana's most important asset. We will begin with the purpose of the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund, and it's really simple. It is to support community-based efforts to develop, operate, expand, enhance, and coordinate initiatives, programs, and activities that work to prevent child abuse and neglect. It is our primary goal to protect Louisiana's most important asset, our children. The deadline for the submission of applications is Friday, February 28th, 2020 at 4:00 p.m. That is a hard deadline. LCTF expectations, if you are awarded a grant, include the following. 1. The contractor shall implement the program or event as stated in the application. Any amendments to the program or event must be reported and approved by Children's Trust Fund staff. Number 2, the contractor will make purchases and request reimbursement for expenses listed in the budget section of the approved application and further approved by the trust fund staff. 3, the contractor shall submit monthly cost reports with receipts and documentation for reimbursement of expenditures by the 15th of the following month. Final cost reports are due no later than June 30th, which is the end of the fiscal year. No cost reports will be accepted under any circumstance after July 15th. 4, the contractor will work with the Children's Trust Fund Technical Assistance Coordinator, which is the Louisiana State University Social Research and Evaluation Center, otherwise known as SHREC, to design and implement a sound evaluation and data collection plan. 5, the contractor will provide de-identified data to Children's Trust Fund twice a year, at the mid-year and at the end of the contract year. The data must be submitted using the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund /LSU SHREC data reporting system. If said data is not forthcoming as per the reporting period stated above, the Children's Trust Fund may withhold financial reimbursements to the contractor until the data is received. 6, the contractor agrees to allow the Children's Trust Fund to use the contractor's name and program described in this contractual agreement for purposes of publicizing the Children's Trust Fund activity, providing confidentiality of clients is not compromised. Such publicity shall include, but not be limited to, still photographs, videotapes, references to programs of the contractor in the media, publication of the announcement of grant award. 7, the contractor shall maintain adequate liability insurance. 8, the contractor agrees to acknowledge the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund as a funding agent in any materials produced or printed with these funds. 9, the contractor will submit to the Children's Trust Fund for review and approval a draft of materials to be produced or printed for use in program as outlined in the grant application. 10, the contractor will inform the Children's Trust Fund in writing of any other sources of funding being used in conjunction with the program as outlined in the grant application. 11, the contractor shall submit for review and approval by the agency a copy of a resume or vita on any professionals contracted with or in conjunction with the delivery of services as outlined in the grant application. 12, the contractor shall be obligated to obtain in written permission from the Children's Trust Fund for use of any information collected in the performance of the terms of this agreement. No information resulting from activities to fulfill the requirements of this agreement may be used by any party without the consent of the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund staff. 13, the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund may terminate this agreement if the contractor uses any funds designated in agreement for similar services of purchase of items or materials that have been or shall have been provided from other funding sources. 14, the contractor cannot charge a fee for services or products produced with funds from this contract without written permission from the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund staff. Again, Thank you so much for considering the Children's Trust Fund as a grantor for your program. We are all responsible for the safety of our children, and I am pleased that Louisiana is leading this charge through the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund.
Thanks, Francesca and Katina. Before we move on, here are some helpful resources for you to refer to later. A link of this training will be available under the Resources tab on the LCTF website, along with applications and application guidelines. Also, while you are preparing your proposals, LCTF will be available to take your questions, so please feel free to reach out to them. Now, let's get into the program requirements. The requirements we are about to go over can also be found in the application guidelines.
LCTF funds are divided into 3 categories as seen here. Let's start with direct services. Direct services are best practice models or curriculums that may focus on key areas like education and child development, enhancing parent-child relationships, preparing first-time parents, communication with the new baby, developing peer support systems, or encouraging parent-child bonding. If you are seeking funds for direct services, please refer to the program application. The second category is professional development, conferences, and workshop seminars. These are formal events held annually for professionals and volunteers such as CASA volunteers, DCFS workers, law enforcement, social workers, medical professionals, and school personnel. The activities in this category usually include sharing knowledge and information about support services and overall general information on child abuse and neglect. If you are seeking funds in this category, please refer to the application labeled Conference, Professional Development, and Event. The final category in public awareness campaigns, which are broad-scale events addressing the problem of child abuse neglect and the importance of prevention. The activities in this category use marketing resources like electronic media, newspapers, public service announcements, or billboards to educate the public about child abuse neglect. These campaigns also include sharing information related to child development and non-abusive discipline at public places, and can also share DVDs and written material about parenting at family resource centers and public libraries. The mission of Louisiana Children's Trust Fund is also promoted using these types of services. If you are seeking funds in this category, please refer to the application labeled Conference, Professional Development, and Event.
LCTF provides grants to programs that focus on child abuse and neglect prevention. LCTF grants will be awarded for primary and secondary prevention programs. Primary prevention is taking measures to keep child abuse from happening before it has occurred. Primary preventions are an attempt to influence societal forces that impact parents and children, and they seek to promote positive family functioning. These services are offered on a voluntary basis to all members of the general population. So when you think about primary prevention services, consider these types: educational programs in schools, parenting and prenatal support classes, training for professionals and volunteers, or media announcements. Secondary prevention is taking measures to keep child abuse from happening before it has happened and after certain warning signs have already appeared. So secondary preventions are more problem-focused, especially on particular stressors. These services are also offered on a voluntary basis, but to a predefined group of at-risk individuals. Some types of secondary prevention include support for teenage parents, programs for parents of infants with special needs, children who have been abused, or programs for families with certain stressors. Notice in these examples that a specific group is receiving services. As a side note, the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund Board does consider applications for the funding of equipment, but this is only when the proposed equipment purchase is used for service delivery related to the prevention of child abuse and neglect on an ongoing basis. This equipment must be approved by the Executive Director and becomes the property of the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund once the program is no longer funded.
LCTF funded programs fall into the following 5 categories. 1. Teaching children personal safety and life skills. 2. Education and support services for parents. 3. Hospital and/or home visitation and support services to families. 4. Public awareness and education programs for adults. 5. Training and education of teachers, professional, and volunteers. Examples of each area can be found on page 6 of the application's guidelines.
LCTF encourages grantees to adopt evidence-based interventions or model programs that have established outcomes appropriate to the grantee's participants. Using evidence-based practices to design and implement preventative and intervention efforts is critical in ensuring the efficiency and effectiveness of LCTF funding. Please refer to the Community-Based Child Abuse Prevention Program, also known as CBCAP, for guidelines and information about the levels of evidence-based and evidence-informed practices. As shown here, there are 5 levels of intervention: well-supported, supported, promising, and emerging. A link to the levels of intervention is provided in the application guidelines on page 7. Also, you can refer to the Blueprints, SAMHSA, and Friends Network websites for programs that address child abuse and neglect. Before selecting a program, please be sure that your organization and its partners are able to replicate the model in your region as prescribed.
Let's talk a little about protective factors. All organizations funded by LCTF are expected to address protective factors as described in the Strengthening Families model. Focusing on these strategies is effective in reducing maladaptive behaviors that contribute to child abuse and neglect. The protective factors listed here are the evidence-based characteristics demonstrated by strong families. When thinking about social connections, think about how parents benefit from having positive adult relationships with friends, neighbors, and other members of their community. Families need healthy relationships and support systems. Parents must be able to provide basic needs. Parents unable to meet the needs of their families may experience stress, which increases the chances of abuse and neglect. In some cases, parents are just unaware of the community resources available to them. So building those concrete supports in times of need plays an important part in reducing family stress. Obtaining proper knowledge related to parenting and child development in the social, emotional, and physical areas is key. Parents who understand child development can learn to address behaviors appropriately based on their child's developmental stage.
Raising children to have social and emotional competence is encouraging children to express their feelings and engage with others in a manner that gains a positive response. Parents can teach children to socialize with others while regulating their emotions through modeling positive behavior. Having a strong bond with a parent creates a sense of security and trust in a child. Establishing those ties early in a child's life is helpful as children begin to form relationships with others. Nurturing and attachment provides children with a loving and caring environment that can help them grow and develop strong self-esteem and confidence in themselves. And parenting resilience. Daily activities and other life events can cause stress for overwhelmed parents. Helping parents understand the signs and symptoms of stress can help reduce the chances of abuse as parents become aware of their warning signs. Coping with adverse life events or activities in an appropriate, effective manner is the sign of strong resilience. So overall, when implementing your program activities, think about which of these protective factors you will address and how children and families can benefit from them.
Now that you know about LCTF's grant requirements, let's look at the application instructions and checklist. Depending on the type of program you are providing, organizations will either complete a program application or an event application. Remember, we reviewed the types of funded programs earlier. Labels of each application appear on the cover page at the top right of each application. The instructions of each application includes checklists related to formatting requirements and the supplemental information you must submit based on your organization's public or nonprofit status. Applications that do not follow these instructions or have the required materials will be considered incomplete and will not be reviewed. All applications are due no later than Friday, February 28th by 4 p.m. LCTF accepts applications by mail, courier, or email. Whichever method you decide, please be sure that your total submission is received by the deadline. No late applications will be accepted or reviewed after this date.
Page 2 begins the actual application. Here's where your organization's information will be entered. Where it says Application Organization, please enter your organization's name. For the type of organization, please indicate public or nonprofit. Also indicate the federal ID number along with your organization's address. Also, a contact person's information must be entered. Please note the space available for secondary contact information. Please refer to the list and map of regional designations on page 8 of the application's guidelines to indicate the regions and parishes your program or event will serve. If your program or event is available statewide, please enter statewide. Please enter the total amount of funds you are requesting. Remember that this amount must match the budget narrative you will be submitting with your proposal. Next, tell us about your program's level of evidence-based or evidence-informed intervention. Please refer to page 7 of the application guidelines for a link to a list of the community-based child abuse prevention programs and information regarding the levels of intervention. Next, tell us the name of your project and enter your organization's LDR number. That will be your Louisiana Department of Revenue number. Please select the type of prevention, primary or secondary. We went over the types earlier in the presentation. And finally, select a primary funding category. If you're completing an events application, you will also indicate the type of event being proposed. Is it professional development, training, a conference, or a workshop seminar, or is it a public awareness campaign and education?
Now to the abstract or project summary. This section gives you an opportunity to tell the reviewers what your program or event is all about. In 350 words or less, give the reader a description of title of the program, overall goals and objectives of the program, and state the purpose or vision of your program in one sentence. Specific services that will be provided to meet the overall goal, deliverables, brief description of the specific population including the proposed number of your individuals that will be served. If you are providing direct services, are you focusing on teen mothers, parents of school-aged children, single parents, middle school children, etc.? Or if you are providing professional development, conferences, workshops, or seminars, or a public campaign, is your specific population professionals or volunteers? So for example, are they CASA volunteers, foster parents, social workers, law enforcement, DCFS workers? Please tell us who they are. Performance measures, a brief statement of how the program will aid in the prevention of child abuse neglect, and brief description of how the program is considered primary or secondary prevention. This is your chance to summarize the purpose of your program using a few key points.
Section 1 is the problem description and need for program or event. This is where you will talk about the needs of the participants and why the area you propose to serve needs this type of intervention. So, identify social, physical, economic, and/or any other problems requiring the intervention, and what participant needs have been identified that will be addressed by your program or event. Next, describe the geographical area or give a community profile of the area to be served by your program or event. Include statistics such as child abuse neglect, racial makeup, median income, educational attainment, and percentage of population living in poverty. Helpful data links can be found on page 12 of the application guidelines. This information will help support your organization's decisions to address child abuse and neglect in your selected region. And finally, describe the needs, gaps, and services within the geographic area. What issues will your program or event help solve?
Section 2 addresses the impact on prevention of child abuse and neglect. As mentioned earlier, all programs funded by LCTF are expected to address protective factors that focus on reducing the behavior that contribute to the likelihood of child abuse and neglect. So here you are asked to select the protective factors that apply to your program or event and state how they will be addressed. Think about the services you will be providing when addressing this question. Also in this section, you are asked to describe how the proposed program or event or intervention will aid in the prevention of child abuse and neglect.
Okay, let's go to Section 3. These sections are different. If you are completing a program application, it's called the Intervention Theory of Change. And if you're completing the event application, it is called the Description of the Event. Let's review Section 3 of that program application first. For Part 1, you are being asked to describe the proposed program. So in this section, please include a description of the specific model or curriculum, modifications of the model or curriculum, and the frequency of delivery. For example, do you plan to change any parts of the curriculum? Maybe the number of sessions will change. Please tell us what those changes are. For frequency of delivery, how often will your program happen? Is it a one-time shot? Will it happen once a week, twice a week, once a month? If so, tell us when. Next, give us a list of proposed activities of your program. Are they classes? Are they breakout sessions? Demonstrations of how to care for newborns? Tell us what your participants will do. And then, list the expected or desired outcomes of your program. Outcomes are changes that occur as a result of the project's services. Outcomes should be stated in clear terms and be related to the identified needs of the selected target population. If you conduct your program's activities and succeed with participants, what do you believe will be the result? What do you expect to occur? Next, list the observable and measurable indicators of your program or event. Indicators are specific signs needed to track progress that tell whether or not outcomes are being achieved. Indicators set a level of achievement and are expressed in either numbers or percentages. How do you know if the proposal is achieving what it should be? The next section, 3.5, asks you to build a logic model. If you're completing the program application, you must complete this section. So using the activities, outcomes, and indicators in 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4 that you just described, go ahead and develop a logic model. This will illustrate how your goals and activities are linked to your outcomes. Please refer to page 14 of the application guidelines for the link to the Friends National Resource Center website, Logic Model Builder. Lastly, in 3.6, provide justifications for using the described model for the specific population.
Now let's review Section 3 of the events application. For Part 1, you are being asked to describe the proposed event. So what are you proposing? A conference, workshop, public awareness campaign? Tell us here. List the proposed activities for your event. What will participants engage in at the event? List the expected or desired outcomes of your program. Again, outcomes are changes that occur as a result of the project's services. Outcomes should be stated in clear terms and be related to the identified needs of the selected target population. If you conduct your program's activities and succeed with participants, what do you believe will be the result? What do you expect to occur? Next, list the observable and measurable indicators of your program or event. Indicators are specific signs needed to track progress that tell whether or not outcomes are being achieved. Indicators set a level of achievement and are expressed in either numbers or percentages. How do you know if the proposal is achieving what it should? Finally, event applications will need to attach a program or agenda, either from the previous event or a proposed agenda if this is your organization's first event. Public campaigns will need to attach campaign materials and describe how you plan to disseminate those materials.
Section 4 is participation. This section asks you to provide estimated numbers of how many people will be served by your program. You can choose from children, adults, families, parents, and professionals. Please take note that these categories depend on your primary funding categories. Please remind yourself of what category you chose earlier. You are also asked if your program will focus on any special populations, such as children or adults with disabilities, racial and ethnic minorities, homeless youth or families, or those at risk for homelessness, adult former victims of child abuse and neglect or domestic violence, fathers, non-native English speakers, and immigrants. Lastly, you are asked about recruitment and participation strategies. What will be your strategies? Describe them. If you're completing the program application, please describe the strategies your organization will use to maintain the participants in your program.
In Section 5, you will talk about your program's evaluation. To begin, describe the evaluation design for each of the stated outcomes of your program or event, which shows how they will be successfully measured. Think about the types of evaluation designs: pre-post test with comparison group, pre-post test with additional contact after intervention, post-test only, retrospective pre-post test. Please attach a copy of the evaluation forms to be used. This may be a survey or a pre-post test. Next, describe the data gathering methods that will be used. Is it a survey, interviews, focus groups, observations, or through another method not listed here? Please let us know. Along with that information, list who will be responsible for data collection, analysis, and reporting results to LCTF. Describe your organization's capacity to collect data, enter data into a database, analyze it, compile results, and report results to LCTF. Remember, you will be responsible to LCTF for mid-year and end-of-year data collections. Address whether your program will collect demographic data on program participants and how it will be collected. Will it be collected during the intake process or during registrations? If it is not possible to collect demographics, please explain why. If it's a social media campaign, it may be hard to collect that type of data. Use the chart to add a timeline for program or event activities and evaluation tasks. Complete the chart provided and include the suggested information. This activity timeline will ensure programming is not delayed and will increase timeliness and effectiveness of services.
Moving on to Section 6, Organizational Capacity. This section is all about your organization, so you will need to provide your organization's mission statement. Also provide the evidence of the organization's fiscal responsibility and accountability in program or event administration and planning. Next, attach brief job descriptions and or biographical sketches for each position related to the program. Describe any additional resources that will be used for this specific event or program, such as supplementary funding, volunteers, in-kind support, and donations. Will there be any collaborative partners? List the collaborative partners and their roles along with their contact information. Complete the chart available with any information about any LCTF-funded projects your organization had awarded before. It is optional to list any relevant accreditations, certifications, and awards the organization has achieved. And if you are completing the program's application, provide a brief discussion of the sustainability of your program after the LCTF funding cycle has ended.
Section 7 is Project Budget. Provide a budget narrative that describes the specific costs and expenses associated with the proposed program that LCTF funds will be used to cover. Attach detailed calculations for specified items such as names of items, quantities, unit costs, salaries, and other expenses. This total amount should match the amount given on the grant's application page. All organizations must complete the last 3 pages of the application. Please make sure all required signatures are included in blue ink. So that completes the application section of the grant. Some final notes about your submission. Again, please read the application instructions and checklist carefully. Each application includes checklists related to formatting requirements and the supplemental information you must submit based on your organization's public or nonprofit status. Applications that do not follow these instructions or have the required materials will be considered incomplete and will not be reviewed. All applications must be submitted to the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund office no later than Friday, February 28, 2020 by 4 p.m. Please be sure that you submit 3 copies of your proposal to LCTF. Submit 2 originals with original signatures in blue ink and 1 electronic copy to Michelle Rabelais. Her email address is provided in both applications and the application guidelines.
Again, a link to this training will be available under the Resources tab on the LCTF website, along with the applications and application guidelines. And the LCTF staff will be available to take your questions. We hope that this grant assistance training has been helpful and that you will find the application guidelines helpful as well. Please feel free to refer to this training as often as you need to during your organization's writing process. And we wish everyone good luck. Thank you.